And I think we are now live. This is amazing. Good morning and welcome along to the Bill Legends Under House Arrest. This is the biggest ever reunion of the cast of The Bill. You can see all these wonderful actors here in front of you. Definitely one of the UK's most loved dramas. We've got hundreds of people watching us from around the world this morning. My name's Matt Fincham, and for the next hour and a half, we're going to be talking to these 30 different cast members about their time on the show. We're going to be reliving some classic moments from the series. There may even be a reenactment of a scene or two. And the bit you're waiting for, I'm sure with bated breath, is the quiz to see who will be crowned the Bill Super Champion. Yes. We also have a special guest in the form of Paul O'Grady, who'll be joining us later on. He guest starred in quite a few episodes back in the day and is also a self-confessed super fan of the show. So we've got a few points of order before we continue, please. This is a live Zoom, so we may and probably will experience some technical difficulties. Some of the cast may have dodgy internet connections or forget to mute themselves when making a cup of tea or going to the toilet. So bear with when that happens. So we ask you to be very patient there. There will be discussion of some of the hard-hitting storylines that featured in The Bill over the years, and there may be some bad language. If Scott Maslin is involved, there will almost certainly be some bad language. So if you have children present, please perhaps get them to play in another room. Thank you. We also politely ask you not to record today's event, or you will incur the wrath of Lisa Maxwell, and you don't want to be on her bad side, trust me. Now it's time to hand over. She's got a truncheon. It's time to hand over to said wonderful lady who assembled all of the cast here today. She starred in The Bill for 7 years as D.I. Samantha Nixon, and she's going to tell us now about why we're here and the very special cause we're raising money for today. Over to you, the governor, Lisa.
Thank you, Matt. I've got my truncheon, no mucking about. Well, first of all, I want to start off by saying, obviously, a massive thank you to all of the cast for giving up their Saturday morning for this brilliant cause. But mostly, I want to thank you guys for digging deep and buying tickets today. I know that we are during very, very difficult times and you know, in a world pandemic and money is tight. So I really do appreciate you choosing to support us today. I want to tell you a bit about where the money is going to go, because I've been an ambassador for Centrepoint, which is a charity for youth homelessness, for over 20 years now. And I've seen them do some extraordinary things to help young people turn their lives around. But this particular initiative is by far the most genius and the most ambitious, because they are trying to, in the next 18 months, provide jobs and homes for 316 to 25-year-olds. It's called the Independent Living Project, and basically every penny we make today will go towards building one-bedroom modular homes that these young people can afford to live in. So they're modular, which means they can be picked up and moved. So if someone donates a piece of land to Centrepoint, these homes can be put on there. What often happens is a young person will rehabilitate, go through a Centrepoint hostel and work really hard to get their lives back on track. And then they'll go back into society and they haven't got a hope in hell of affording rent because the rents are so high. With these modular homes, the rent will be capped at a third of what the young people are earning. So they will be able to afford to live independent and proud lives. And thanks to you, this will all hopefully come to fruition within the next 18 months. So thank you very much on behalf of Centrepoint. Thank you very much from me and the cast for joining us today. I'd like to hand over to our brilliant patron, who's been engaged with youth homelessness since he was a very young boy, and his mother, Princess Diana, introduced him to Centrepoint. Please watch this film. It's the Royal Highness Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge.
Centrepoint was one of the first charities of which I became patron back in 2005. I chose to do that because visiting Centrepoint services with my mother made such a lasting impression on me as a child. And it still makes a lasting impression on me today. This morning, I visited Centrepoint's first apprenticeship house. The young people I met, some of whom are here tonight, are having their lives transformed. They will soon be living together in a cozy, shared home, supporting each other as they start new training courses as apprentices. It's for that reason, to give these young people a different future, that Centrepoint's work remains so utterly crucial. Thank you for your continued support.
So thank you all very much for that. Obviously, you can donate throughout this whole Zoom. I think Matt will give you all the details about how to do that. But please, if you're enjoying what you're watching today, can you show your appreciation by making a donation to what we all think is a very worthy cause? Matt.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Probably the simplest way to donate, if you are enjoying what you're seeing this morning and want to give to this incredible cause, is to text. Now, the text number is 70025. Please make a note of that, 70025. And all you need to do is text the word BILL, B-I-L-L, you should all know that, to that number, £5 a text, and all the money will be going to Centrepoint this morning. So we will keep plugging that, but we thank you so much for the donations, an incredible amount of money you've raised so far. I think we need to just crack straight on into this. So I'm going to encourage the first group to join us. And my God, what a group to begin with. We're going to be joined now by Trudy Goodwin, Sergeant June Ackland, Peter Ellis, Chief Superintendent Charles Brownlow, Graham Cole, PC Tony Stamp, Sita Indrani, PC Norika Datta, Lynn Miller, PC Kathy Marshall, and Lisa Geegan, the wonderful PC Polly Page. It's a pleasure to see you all. Look, legends. I should add that we do have a little chat box in the bottom of Zoom today, so feel free to comment, send some questions for the cast. We're going to be selecting some of the best of those and asking the cast them at the very end. You can comment on the state of my hair and flat as well. Anything goes. So let's start with Trudy. A pleasure to meet you virtually. I honestly could spend the next hour and a half just talking to you, to be honest, but we've got lots of people to talk to today. Let's talk about you. June Ackland, you were in the show from the very start, the pilot episode Wooden Top. Did you have any inkling when you were filming that in 1983 that 37 years later, we'd be talking about this show during a global pandemic on a virtual Zoom call?
No. Do you know what the answer to that is? No.
Right.
No, I mean, well, the first thing, I never thought that was going to go beyond, it was a one-off play as far as we were concerned. It wasn't, we didn't even know it was being put out there as a possible series. So Mark and I and the other people involved then did it and forgot all about it, to be perfectly honest, until they came back to us a few months later and said, we're going to make that into a series. So no idea. After the end of that, that was that pilot, Wooden Top. As for Zooming, which I am complete rubbish at, and anything to do with technology, I've had such a nightmare this morning. I'm only just calming down.
Join the club.
I certainly never thought we'd all be in a pandemic, which has been terrible for everybody. But this morning here, I don't know about Australia, but here it's probably dark there, but it's a beautiful spring day. And I don't know about everybody else, but I feel there's a bit of a spring in my step, and it's so lovely to see everybody. Yeah. It's just great to see everybody. It really is. It just and joining in, coming to this. Thank you, and hello everybody, and thank you for paying to come and see us. That's great.
Well, we genuinely do have people all over the world. There's lots of people around the UK. We've got people in Canada. We've got people in Australia. We've got people in New Zealand. Oh. It really is a global thing, which I think is testament to the strength of the show, that it lives just beyond the UK. Now, Julie, let's talk a bit. I mean, you were in the show, I think, 1983 to 2007, so a very long stint. I'd really like to know, what are the most memorable storylines for you in that period of working across the bill? Which are the storylines that really stick out to you?
Gosh, I mean, there were a lot. I think in terms of storylines, actual storylines, the one, it was a three-parter and directed by a wonderful director called John Strickland, where somebody was trying to shoot me, basically. And that was so exciting to do. And I thought it came out really, really well as well. And to concentrate over 3 episodes was quite a departure. So it was like doing a little film, really. I really, really enjoyed that. I got that a lot from that. And that was a storyline that involved me a lot. But in terms of episodes that I really enjoyed, certainly, you know, the couple of live episodes that we did were amazing. And the couple of episodes that we did all in one shot were also astonishing to be part of and beyond. There are so many. I mean, I've forgotten a lot of them, but there were, we all got our turn as well. I think everybody would agree that you got your turn. So you had a big episode and then you didn't have much to do in the next one, so on and so forth. So that worked quite well.
It's funny you talk about the 3-part episode. I think that's the first ever 3-part episode in the series. So, credit to your character that you were the center of that. Poor Jo Morgan, I think, met her demise at the end of that, wasn't she? Was gunned down outside the station. There must have been, we're talking about some of the high points. Let's talk about some of the bits that maybe you thought, hang on a minute. I've always wondered the whole Gabriel Kent storyline. And I would love to have known how it was pitched to you when, I don't know, the producer said, hey, Trudy, a character called Gabriel Kent is going to join the show. He's going to be a fellow police officer. He's going to seduce you and then pretend to be the son you gave up for adoption when you were raped as a teenager. Walk me through that. What do you say to that?
What do you say? It's been decided. What do you do? You can't go, I resign. I'm not very happy with that. I haven't been playing that character. I've been playing that for the last God knows how many years that I've had a child. For a start. In fact, doing acting's always really. I've had no time for children whatsoever. I've always thought that's because she doesn't have any. So that was weird, and the whole sex thing, it was awful. It made nothing to do with the dear actor involved. I mean, he was in the same position as me. What was I doing with this old woman who was my mother? And insane. I thought it was a really awful idea, and you needed a PhD to be able to understand the plot line. We didn't understand it. We didn't. So. Yeah.
Right, okay. Oh, it's good to hear. Oh, someone's got a call. Let's bring in Peter. It's wonderful to see you. Of course, Chief Superintendent Brownlow. You were the longest-serving boss for the bill, Peter. I think 1984 through to 2000. Yeah. And some of your most memorable scenes were with Ben Roberts, Chief Inspector. They were. Tell us about your working relationship. Did you bicker as much off screen as you did on?
I don't know, really. It was quite sort of jokey, I think, with Ben, and he was just lovely to work with, and because a lot of it, I probably shouldn't say this, a lot of it was partly improvised, I think, upstairs. We get away with a lot of things. Yeah.
I was thrilled to see you recently in The Crown, and I hope you don't mind me saying, Peter, you've got a very distinctive walk. I always remember the Brownlow walk up and down the corridors. And I said to my wife, I was watching The Crown, I was like, that's Chief Superintendent Brownlow. And we rounded up. There you were in The Crown, obviously starring alongside Claire Foy. Tell us a bit about working on that show, which obviously has been a huge success.
Well, I was only playing a tiny part in it, but I mean, it was good. It was great to be on it, and I had a tiny bit with Claire Foy, which was very nice, and it was good. It was good. And he'd had a wonderful director, Stephen Daldry, who's just brilliant, and unobtrusive and amazing, I thought. But it's good.
It was really good to see you in it. I'm going to bring in Graham now. Graham Cole, OBE. What a pleasure to speak to you, sir, this morning. Tony Stamp. Now, do you know this, Graham? You are actually the cast member to appear in the most episodes of the show. 1,195. I counted them all last night. Which is incredible. Now, what quite a few people don't realise is you started off as a background sort of a supporting character without lines, and then you came through. Can you tell us through how you ended up getting your regular part in the show?
First of all, I got all those episodes because I am the cheapest actor that they ever employed. They didn't have to pay me very much. I was actually Julian Oldfield, who those in the cast that are old enough will remember was our casting director for a very long time. I was doing some broadsword fighting at the Nationals. I didn't utter a word, Peter, you'll be pleased to know. But I was doing all the fight sequences in the background, and they just wanted an actor that could handle himself, basically, and I'd done a lot of stage fighting and what have you. And so Julian came and spoke to me and said, we can't offer you anything. That's nothing unusual for an actor. But do come and meet Peter Grigine, which I did do. The cast were wonderful to me. I kept disappearing because I was still doing repertory theatre at the time. And lo and behold, I did wander around in the background for quite a long time. And I made sure as the camera was passing me, I was always doing something wrong. I either had gum that I spat into a bin, or I got my feet on the desk as Eric walked in. I was always just trying to think of anything to bring attention to myself, basically. And then fortunately, there was a fight sequence. I won't remember the episode. John Salthouse was the governor on it, and they wanted an actor to fight and come off the stage at an old disused Odeon. So I kind of said yes and did that. Fortunately, then I was wandering about. Wonderful. You'll talk to the cast later, but the cast that were there, Eric and Trudy, they were just wonderful to me. Mark were just so supportive. I stuck on an episode contract for over a year, and we then moved to Bulby Road, and I went along. I was invited to the opening of the show, which was now going to go into two half hours from the hour-long circle. And I went there and looked on the wall, and my pitch was on the wall with 7 others that were going to be main cast. No one had mentioned it to me. I spoke.
That's amazing.
I spoke to Julian Oldfield, and he said, "Oh yes, you're playing Tony Stamp, who I'd never heard of." And I said, "Oh, really? But I'm about to go and do a national tour of Guys and Dolls playing the Lieutenant." He said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get you out of that." And they did. And 27 years later, I was still playing him. And I mean, and it was an amazing show to come into. The cast. Why you've got 30 of us here is you've got 30 of the loveliest people. That it was an absolute joy every morning to walk into that building. I don't know if they tell you or not, but I'm a bit of a practical joker. I'll always have some stupid line at the end of the scene to annoy everybody with. But they are glorious people. And when Lisa, bless her, asked us to do this, there was no hesitation on my part. You can't have that much fun for 27 years and they pay you for it. It was extraordinary. And I got to drive cars, of course.
And drive them very well. You did have a couple of crashes, didn't you, over the years?
Yes, I had 12. I have 12 Pollacks. Whenever I do police functions, which I still do, they remind me of that. So we have 1 police Pollack, and you're off. You had 12, and you're still going. I ran my sergeant over, for God's sake, and I still kept my license.
It's nice to see Trudy. Yeah, you've sort of been with us today and unaffected by that. Yeah. Let's bring in Lynn and Sita here, because actually you guys joined at a similar time to Graham. I think it was actually a year after when the sort of half-hour episode started. Let's start with you, Sita. What I always thought with Narika Datta is she's the type of police officer I would want to meet in real life if I ever got into a spot of bother. And I think you're very sort of calm and sort of understated. One of the standout storylines, I think, for you was the harassment, the sexual harassment from Phil Young, which was, I think, probably about 1990. That was quite a harrowing storyline. That was the first time where we saw a really kind of corrupt officer. Although compare him to Kathy Bradford, he was a patron saint. But let's talk about that storyline and how it was like filming that.
Well, Trudy mentioned those continuous shot episodes we did, and I think it was David Heyman that shot the first one in the van, if you remember. And David shot. I think actually the harassment storyline started there, but he certainly shot one of mine from that. And I can't remember. It was Jimmy, this big, what's the name of the director? Big guy, very old, experienced.
Jimmy Goddard.
Goddard.
Yeah, him. Who did the other 2? I think there were 1 or 2. It was very, as Trudy said, actually, we all got our crack of the whip, and it was very exciting to be in the centre and a lot of responsibility. I was quite young and nervous about it. But it really stretched me as an actor. It was great. Yeah, good.
And I think the one take episode you're talking about, it's one when you're all in the back of a police van, isn't it? And it's just, I mean, that is incredible. Anyone who watches or works in television, to have that one take for 15 minutes to get everyone to hit their marks and everything, it was and quite groundbreaking. I think people don't give the bill enough credit about, how groundbreaking it was as a kind of television production.
Absolutely. If you remember, I can't remember the name of the wonderful camera operator.
Alison Chapman.
Huh? Alison. It was a female camera operator, which in those days was unheard of. But she was ideal because she was so tiny, because we were in a van. It wasn't a mock-up. It was an actual van. So there was a lot of shifting to make all of the shots work. And as you say, groundbreaking for its time.
And see, she had to wear a police uniform, didn't she? In case it caught her shoulder or anything like that. So she looked like,
That's right.
Amazing. Let's chat to you, Lynn. Kathy Marshall, I think of her as a very affectionate, quite a bossy character. I think it's probably safe to say you had no qualms in kind of berating any one officer above you or below you. Was it fun playing those scenes as that character, the kind of crisp, bossy sort of Kathy Marshall?
Yes, I mean, she came in as the person who was looking at all the old, stuff and organising stuff. I do have to say that I'm a bit taken aback by how much everybody else has remembered, because I remember very, very little. Great. I agree, it was massive fun. We had a brilliant time. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. 10 years of my life that was just great, but my memory of specific episodes and who directed them and whatever is nil, so apologies for that. But yeah, she was quite she was very organised, and she was quite bossy, and of course she became an acting sergeant for a bit, so due given to her bossiness. She was very lovely.
Oh, yes.
Well, she was haunted. I think, there was a storyline where your ex-husband was a police officer and he'd beaten your character up. So I think there was a sort of tragic element, wasn't there, to the character? Talking of tragic, let's talk about your exit, which is, we're going to be talking about lots of cast exits today. Yours was a really horrible, when you died, but we didn't see you die on screen. Talk to us about your memories of that episode and how your exit came from the show.
Well, you never know whether she was stupid and fell off the barge, or whether she was pushed, and you will never know that, and nor did I.
To bring that.
So it
I'll
was
have to plug it in somewhere.
and it was quite funny because there was obviously a scene when they'd taken the body out of the River Thames. It was quite interesting when you go and work on the River Thames. They have to have massive support, because obviously if you fall in, it's not very easy to get back out again. So we did all the night shoots for that, but then there was a scene where they took the body out covered in a sheet, and I didn't have to turn up for that, obviously, because
you had a body double.
So we're watching it later with my daughter, who was quite tiny at the time, and she looked at it and she said, "That's not you, Mummy." I went, "No, you're absolutely right." But yeah, it was obviously, it's always sad leaving something that's that much fun and leaving everybody behind, but these things come and go, and yeah, I think she was pushed. I don't think she's that daft. She wouldn't have fallen off. Yeah.
No, and I don't think there was any comeuppance for the guy who did it, which was very, very annoying as a sort of fan. But thanks, Lynn. Let's chat finally then to Lisa. Can you unmute yourself, Lisa? You don't want me wanging on all morning. There she is. Great. I mean, Lisa, Polly Page, such a beloved character. I think the audience were really rooting for her, right? And I think you were in the show 12 years, wasn't it? I know you took a year off, didn't you, for maternity leave. Tell us in that period, what was your favourite storyline to do? Because Polly had a fair share.
Oh, so many storylines. I mean, some of them were really a bit harrowing. Like we had that one from, was it Dark Dusk Till Dawn, when a baby died, and we filmed all night. That's why I remember it, because we filmed all night. We were waiting for the sunrise. But obviously there was a lot of fun episodes as well. I loved the episode where it was Andrew Paul's, Dave Quinnan's stag night. All the girls were together. I love that episode because, we didn't often get to work together, all the girls. Yeah. So that was great. We had great fun. But I had to be really miserable during the take. So that was quite difficult. Every time action, to stop laughing and be miserable. Because we had so much fun on that ep, I remember. But going back to Narika's character, when before I was in it and I used to watch it, I used to love Jim and Narika, and it was that storyline when she was being. So to actually be in it myself after being a fan was pretty good, pretty exciting.
You do forget there was a sort of flirtation, wasn't there, between Mark's character and yours, Sita? It never kind of came through. Although I do think Jim did deck the Phil Young character, who was also very unpleasant to you. So he kind of was quite chivalrous there.
Yeah, I thought that.
Kudos for remembering that. I don't remember that. I do remember that Jim Carver and Narika were a bit sweet on each other. Or they were sort of dancing around each other, really.
Great. Well, we'll be chatting to Mark in a bit. Lisa, similarly to my question to Trudy, I mean, you were put through the ringer. Was there a point where you got a storyline and you thought, this is enough? Come on, give Polly a break.
Well, I was shocked at quite a few of the storylines, especially when suddenly we'd gone into our own private lives. And then I was getting really het up about the Garfield and Quinnan storyline with Leslie, the nurse.
Yeah.
And I can remember thinking, what is wrong with me? I was really stroppy about it, Polly. And I kept thinking, why is she so stroppy? And then, unbeknown to me, it was because I was in love with Dave Quinnan. But, you know, when you read the script, you think, oh, hello, that's a new thing today. Yeah.
I mean,
quite easy though.
You and Andy were good mates, weren't you? So it must have been strange, like snogging your mate and Cameron. Was that an odd thing?
Oh, that was good. That was great fun. That was great fun. That was a laugh. Yeah, listen, that's easy. Snogging Andy, ask anyone.
He sends his best to all of you today, by the way. It's his, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, it's his nephew's bar mitzvah, so he's really sad he couldn't be here, but sends his best to all of you and is thrilled that we're doing this today. Now, I'm so conscious of time, honestly. We could spend all day talking to all of you. Thank you. We will be dipping in with you guys later. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to crack on with the quiz quickly now. I'm going to race through this. So we have some super fans today taking part in the quiz. There's a great prize on offer. This quiz, by the way, has been written by Oliver Crocker, who, if you're a fan, I'm guessing you're a fan of the show if you're here on the Zoom today, he does this brilliant podcast. It's definitely worth downloading. And if there were PhDs going in the bill, he would have one. Now, he's written this quiz, which is a question from every single year of the time of the show. So from 1983 through to 2010. All of the people taking part in the quiz, please get your phones ready and take part. For those of you not doing it, play along at home for fun. It is fiendishly difficult, but hey, it's multiple choice. You may have some luck. So let's start with round one. Question one, what are the first lines spoken in the pilot episode Wooden Top? Is it A, is that really the time? B, okay, Carver, let's do it. Or C, oi, you're nicked. So what are the first lines spoken in the pilot episode Wooden Top? Mark, you really should know this. Question two, he's got his finger up. Question two, in the episode Long Odds, which future film star made his television debut as an armed robber called Horace Clark? Is it A, Sean Bean, B, James McAvoy, or C, David Tennant? Question three, in series 2's Hostage, which officer became the first character to be shot in the series? One of many. Is it A, Sergeant Tom Penny, B, PC Robin Frank, or C, PC Pete Ramsey? Question four, we're rattling through them. After being assaulted and failing to prevent a suicide jumper, Viv Martella, the lovely Nuala Conwell, who we'll be speaking to later, withdraws her application from which police force? Is it the A, the Alaskan police force, B, Bermudan, or C, less exotic, Croydon? Question five, the half-hour episodes of The Bill began in July 1988. Graham talked about them earlier. What was the first episode of this format called? Was it A, The Three Wise Monkeys, B, Goodwill Visit, or C, Light Duties? Question six, are you all still with me? Just about. In the one that got away, Chief Superintendent Brownlow, the wonderful Peter Ellis here today, radios in that he's pursuing a stolen car. What is his call sign? Peter, do you have any idea what your call sign was in 1989? No, fine. Is it A, Sierra Oscar 5-1, B, Sierra Oscar 5-4, or C, Sierra Oscar 8-5? And the final question in this round, in Trojan Horse, a car bomb detonates in the station yard. Which officer is killed in the subsequent explosion? Is it A, PC Richard Turnham, B, PC Ken Melvin, or C, PC Timothy Abel? I think we're gonna have a little pause there. And we're now going to move on to our next group. Thank you so much, Trudy, Peter, Graham, Lynn, Sita, and Lisa. Genuinely a pleasure to see you all. And we're now going to line up our next group, which is Mark Wingett, PC and respectively DC Jim Carver, Russell Bolter, the wonderful John Bolton. We've got Chris Simmons, DC Mickey Webb, Stephen Hartley, Superintendent Tom Chandler, Natalie Rolls, DS Debbie McAllister, and our governor, Lisa Maxwell, DI Samantha Nixon. Great to see you all. Hello, Mark. Let's start with you. Bona fide Bill legend. again, I guess let's go straight into storylines. You had some brilliant moments over the years. What was your most notable storyline? Which did you feel as an actor you enjoyed the most?
I think it's funny to say, I think I enjoyed Carver's descent into alcoholism was my favourite storyline.
And can I ask you a question on that? I remember reading at the time that it was sort of a tribute to Kevin Lloyd, that storyline, who had played DC Tosh Lines, very sadly died from alcoholism. Was that in part a response to that? Was that your kind of the show's way of paying tribute to Kevin?
Well, it's funny how it came about. There was a thing at the moment, I forget the name of it, it's where uniformed officers had to, what was it called? Tenure. Yeah, uniformed officers had to become CID officers, and CID officers had to do the vice versa. So this was happening in the real police force. And at that time, we tried to mirror the police force as close as we could. So our wonderful producer, Richard Hanford, came to me and told me, Mark, we want you to leave CID and go back into uniform, which was a bit of a shock, because even though you're an actor, CID was something to be kind of looked for. So I went away, and I came back, and Kevin had passed away a few weeks before from acute alcoholic poisoning and inhalation of his gastric contents. So I went into Richard and I said, Richard, yeah, I'd like to do this, but why don't we give Jim Carver a few problems? Why don't we make him into an alcoholic? This has such an effect on him. And I said, I want to do this because Kevin's at the forefront of my mind. It's a very strange tribute, if you like. Richard went, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. And then Richard came back to me a few days later and said, let's do it. And I gave up drinking 27 years ago now, so I have a bit of experience of that. So I had a really big input into that storyline. It was the closest I came to kind of, collaborating. I took members, writers to my self-help group that I use. I conversed with the producers. I showed them certain techniques that problem drinkers have to deal with it. And I worked very, very closely on it. So the short answer to your question is, yeah, it was a kind of tribute to Kevin Lloyd, but it was more than that. I wanted to show the tragedy of alcoholism, really. So it's not so much a tribute, it's more of a highlighting.
Well, you were brilliant in it. I genuinely think it's one of the kind of most hard-hitting storylines and memorable ones in the whole of the history of the show. I do know you have a big fan of your acting, particularly in that storyline. I'm going to bring in Russell here. Loved your podcast, by the way, with Oliver, which I've been listening to, Russell. Joy to meet you. Let's talk actually about the John Bolton character, because do you want to tell the story of why he was brought in and who wrote him originally, which is kind of pertinent to Mark?
Yeah, it was Mark's brother created this character. So I just did one episode as the character. And I think they were sort of thinking at the time Carver needed someone to sort of hit against. So we did one episode. And then about a year later, they said we kind of like the chemistry. So they brought the character back in. But it was fantastic. It's the first time as a television actor I'd ever met the writer, and you could actually talk about the character and what the character was supposed to be and what they were trying to achieve. And so it was that collaborative thing, I think, was fantastic with the bill, is that you got to work with the writers and the producers. And so you were much more involved. I mean, often as an actor, you just get called in, there's your script, do it, go home. And this was a little bit more heartfelt, I think, for everyone on the show. You identified with your character, you built really good relationships with other actors. So that was it. That was where the character came from.
And you're actually one of the few actors who played their part, that character, and then was promoted to a main cast member afterwards. So obviously your performance stood out to the producers, and they wanted to have you back.
I was really cheap. That was it. That was
there you go. Well, obviously paid off for you, Russell. Bolton had so many amazing storylines over the years. I mean, let's talk about your demise. Let's talk about fighting Billy Murray in a quarry or wherever it was in the year 2000. Talk us through that. That must have been mad.
Well, I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, because we shot it at like 2 a.m. And we basically had a fight for 2 hours. And Billy was a boxer, so he sort of knew how to fight. And we had, you know, we did this fantastic set piece. So I thought, this is going to be amazing. And then you see it in the final episode. He basically just headbutts me and I'm dead. And as a member of my family went, you wuss, you know, come on, after 5 years, proper fight. I was going, I did. But the thing that, but you know, you run out of time and all sorts of decisions have to be made in an editing suite. But I just remember the last night, it was just really sad because I knew that's going to be kind of the last thing I do. And you know, all the crews on the bill were amazing, and you get really close because you're kind of in there every morning, 7:30 till like 7:30 at night. You do that for a few years. The people you work with sort of start becoming your family, and there was this sort of horrible thing where they sort of buried me in the sand. It was like being at the seaside. You know, when your family bury you in the sand. I mean, it's just my family, I don't know. But there was this sort of moment when everyone started getting really upset, and you know, some makeup ladies who had putting the blood on and everything, they were crying, and the costume people, and then the lighting cameramen, you know, they call the lighting cameramen on the bill the Princes of Darkness, and you know, they weren't notorious for showing emotion, but you know, some of them were getting quite, I'm sure that's for everyone who's left the show. It does feel momentous when you leave because you think, oh, this is a big chunk of my life I'm ending now. So yeah, it was a bit emotional.
Yeah, I can well imagine. I always think it must be surreal as an actor filming a death scene and then watching you die on screen.
I'll tell you what was worse. No, I'll tell you what was really bad. There was an episode where they did the character's funeral, and I think it was Mark nicked the plate off the coffin with my character's name and the day he died and sent it to me. And I got this envelope through, and it was like, you know, when someone walks over your grave, someone actually sends you your bloody coffin plaque. It's horrible practical joke. But yeah, it does feel weird. Yeah. So I think there'd always be a temptation to come back in the show if you were still alive somewhere. So I think, you know, smashing someone's head in or pushing them off a barge is a really good way to make sure you don't come back. I mean, it's much more exciting if you get an ending like that, you know, rather than, I don't know, you go off and I don't know. You
get lost in the stationery cupboard.
You go next door to get some stationery and you don't come back. I mean, something's gone horribly wrong if that happens.
Well, talking of memorable exits, I'm looking at Stephen Hartley here, the brilliant Superintendent Tom Chandler. Steve, let's just jump straight in with your exit storyline. We've got Natalie here. By the way, it's so brilliant seeing you two on screen together, and all of these actors have kind of interacted over the years. You were brought in as the new Broom. So Russell's kind of departure and Billy Murray as Don Beach, there was a real kind of cast clear out. There were some nice faces, like luckily Chris was there. He survived it, and Mark and others. And there was a kind of whole new wave of cast members. Did you feel pressure there, Stephen, as kind of like this new Broom? You're replacing a beloved character in the form of Peter Ellis, Brownlow. There must have been a lot of pressure for you joining the show at that point in time.
Yes, there was, and I was very aware of it. I mean, there was a huge legacy from those cast members, and I'd watched the bill since it had started, because I was a young actor just coming out of drama school when the bill first started, and I'd watched it regularly, and so then being asked to come in and succeed Peter as a chief superintendent was a huge pressure. And also, I'll never forget my first day. I was given a 2-page monologue to deliver to the whole cast in the canteen. And I just remember walking in there and seeing all these faces that I'd been watching for the last however many years in front of me, and a camera on a track, which was basically going to be one take of me doing this speech. And it was the most terrifying thing that I'd ever done on television or on stage. And I actually managed to do it on the first take, and then everybody stood up and gave me a round of applause. And I'll never forget that. It was quite amazing. But no, there was a huge pressure because also, you know, some of the actors that had left were, you know, wonderful actors that had left and had left this huge legacy. And then suddenly I turn up, and I was absolutely terrified to do it. But fortunately, everybody that was in there was incredibly supportive, and it was a great honour for me to come in and do that job for, you know, the couple of years that I did it, really.
Well, you and Natalie must have been doing something right, because of that new cast, not many of them lasted long, to be honest. I think it was about a year and a half, and you two kept going beyond that period in time. So let's bring in Natalie Ds Mcallister, a brilliant character. You loved her and hated her in equal measure, I think, but there was definitely a kind of fragility, I think, to her character, and you certainly saw it with the Chandler McAllister storyline. I'm seeing Chris, Stephen and Natalie here in a role here on Zoom. You were all involved in Stephen's departure storyline, very dramatic moment, where basically you shoot your brains out, Stephen. Talk to me, the three of you, about filming that, because you're having contractions on the floor. Chris, you're running up the stairs. It's all going off. Let's start with you, Natalie. Tell us about filming that, because it's been a very surreal experience.
Oh, the whole thing, I was in my pregnancy makeup as well. So all that was going on, and we spent so long in superintendent's office. We were in there probably 3 weeks. Up those stairs, off we go. And yeah, it was intense, but so much fun. We were, you know, it was just one of those lucky storylines that we actually blended. We all had a chance to be part of something that was really big. And Steve, he was, every time you were so intense, you were brilliant. And it was quite freaky, hiding under a desk with you, the gun, going off into your monologues. No, it was, yeah, Chris, you were running up and down stairs. Meadows was in and out, making sure he could be involved with that story as well. No, it was great. Such fun. It was fun.
Do you miss the show, Natalie?
Yeah, I struggled with it because I did just over 4 years, and I was feeling really broody, and I couldn't quite get the whole thing working and all of that going on. So yeah, I did. I missed it. I missed the family unit. It was, as everyone said, you know, the unit, the crew, the cast, it was such an intense full day every day. They were your family, so it was hard. And I drove off in a car, and McAllister left to go and be a mum, which was ironic as well. And can anyone remember the son? Can you remember our baby's name, Steve?
No.
Terrible
Andrew.
parents. Someone in the chat will know. Andrew, thank you, Daniel and Jane and Jazz. Look, all the super fans know. Andrew, there you go. Brilliant.
There you go. So yeah, I do miss it. It's so fantastic, Lisa, putting all this together and seeing you all. It's just, I want a bigger screen because I've only got, I think, 9 on a screen, and I keep flicking past. And yeah, it's wonderful. So well done, Lisa, for getting this together for such a good cause. Bill 70025 text. That's what we have to do, isn't it?
Nice one.
70025.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. And on that, please, if you are enjoying this morning's brilliant reunion of cast members, as Nat says, text the word Bill to 70025. I'm so conscious of time. I'm going to jump to you, Chris, now. And I could spend probably the next hour talking about you because Mickey Webb was such a brilliant character in so many different periods of the show as well. I'd like to talk to you about a particular storyline. And it's one, I think it was around 2009 when you go undercover as a homeless man. And I'd just like to kind of talk about that. Obviously, bearing in mind what we're doing today and the money we're raising for Centrepoint. Talk to me about that storyline and how it was pitched to you originally.
It was, I think it was directed by Rob Knight, who's a wonderful director there, very well respected. And it was Tim Key that first told me about it. And, you know, would I go away and research? And there's like a crisis where I lived at the time in Rochester. There was like a crisis centre there. So that's where I would go to and hang out with a lot of people who would go to these centres. And it was brilliant. It was just really in depth. It was all shot in the winter time when these guys were saying, I remember one guy I spoke to was like, he said, "Oh, in the summertime, it's all right. You know, it's not as bad as, you know, we sort of, you know, it gets cold for a few hours at night." And then it was having chatted to them saying how awful it gets in the winter when, you know, it's freezing for like 24 hours. And I remember taking that away into the story thinking, geez, that must, you know, that's got to be like, to be there in November, December, January time. Is a lot different to, you know, being out in the sun and you know, not that they're both terrible, but that's what really struck with me, thinking, wow, geez, this is for people to be like this all the time. Yeah, it must have been like devastating, but it was a great story. It was all shot in East London. There was a wonderful guest actor called Michelle, who I forget her surname now. God, there's so many, isn't there? Rob Knights directed it wonderfully, and really highlighted the problem of homelessness in London. And I remember Lisa right from the very beginning talking to us all about Centrepoint. You know, literally, I think it's pretty much as soon as you was at the bill, wasn't it, Lisa? You was involved in Centrepoint.
Yeah, I did my first sleep out for Centrepoint just as I joined the bill. And it's interesting you say about how cold it is. The reason that Centrepoint organised the sleep out in November is that people need to really get a sense of how impossible it is to sleep on the pavement in November and get up and do a whole day of just staying alive. But that was what the bill did brilliantly, those sort of highlighting those real issues. Unfortunately, homelessness is worse now than ever, unfortunately, but it's great that the bill did that, isn't it?
Oh, it was brilliant. And I think it was brave enough to tackle any story as well, the bill. It would literally, I remember Graham said early on, it would always evolve. It would always be really brave. And I remember Tim Key saying it would never, ever run out of stories. If it was still going, it would still, you know, it was never the same story. That was the great thing about it. You're always doing something different. Yeah, some wonderful stories.
Oh, you certainly left your mark, Chris. Brilliant characters, some amazing acting in your kind of decade on the show. Let's chat to the governor who put this all together, Lisa Maxwell. And actually, Lisa, can I bring in your on-screen daughter at this point? I'm so sorry, Georgia, you're running so behind. I'm hoping Georgia is still with us. She's been very kind. It's her son's birthday, so really appreciate her coming and joining us. Is Georgia with us? I'll wait and see.
I can hear her.
I'm here. I mean, I don't know in which box I now reside, but I'm definitely here.
Okay. Well, we can. There she is. Brilliant. Okay. Brilliant. Now, I want to do like a sort of I let you have your moment together because mother and daughter. Georgia, you were in something, I think it was about 25 episodes from around 2002 through to Lisa's departure storyline of Sam Nixon. Were you aware of the show and how big it was before joining it? Because I think you were what, 17, 18 when you first appeared?
Yeah, I was 17 when I did my first episode, but weirdly, the summer before that, I'd actually done work experience on the bill. So it was, yeah, I did. Did I not tell you that?
No.
I didn't tell you that. Yes, it was weird. I did 2 weeks in various different jobs. So I think I started out in the script department where I was highlighting some stuff. I was being very unhelpful the whole time. And then eventually I got moved on to set for 3 days where I was a runner. And it was just the best thing ever. And I remember thinking, oh, if I make it as an actress, this is where I want to end up. And then a year later, it was
Abby Nixon.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to channel your inner 15-year-old self because what we're going to do now is this is a bit of a strange thing. Well, yeah, you can as well, Lisa, feel free. But we want to reenact a classic scene. Obviously, one of the most notable ones with Abby and Sam Nixon was Sergeant Matt Boyden. Again, Tony Callahan, very sorry he can't join us today, but sends his best to all of you. Matt Boyden. And Matt Boyden was a bit of a wrong-un and, well, very much a wrong-un, ended up sleeping with you, Abby, and you were obviously underage. We now have a scene, which I gather you've both been practicing intensely over the last few days, where there's a big reveal where Abby and Sam finds out about this storyline. So can I hand over to both of you? No pressure, there's just hundreds of people watching and all of your castmates, just to do this scene, please.
Just bearing in mind, I don't remember this scene. So you're not going to get the version that you got then.
Fine, that's fine.
All right.
I don't either. I don't remember it first time, and I haven't learnt it this time.
No,
But,
we're reading this. This is not going to be good, guys.
You're not doing yourself any favors. Just go for it. Go
All
for
right,
it.
great. Yeah, no, good. Yeah,
right, okay, me
Okay.
first. Right. You're lying.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Mum,
I know you, Abigail. What's going on? So he comforted you because you were upset?
yeah,
Well, what were you upset about?
the teacher, I told you.
Miss Graham?
Yeah.
The one you don't have for any of your subjects?
Yeah, but I knew her. I said hi to her and everything.
Well, you never mentioned her to me.
Well, why would I?
Well, even after she was shot,
No.
you never even mentioned her name. Look, so you couldn't have been that upset, could you?
Could you just leave it, Mum?
Oh, no. Did Matt Boyden take advantage of you?
Nothing happened.
Did he force you?
No.
So it was consensual?
Mum, just stop.
Was it consensual?
I don't have to listen to this anymore.
He didn't force you, so was it consensual? Was it consensual? Was it consensual?
Yes, I wanted him to.
Oh, you... Lee, I will hang him out to dry for this. His feet won't touch the ground.
Just leave him alone. I love Matt and there's no way I'm pressing charges. Why did I not press charges? I don't think I loved him. Didn't I just shag him in the back of a car? This,
Oh, now you tell me.
this is not, this, yeah. Cut.
Cut. Can we have a round of applause for that? That was amazing. That was really good, guys. God, the chat group below is losing their mind. That's amazing. Thank you. And thank you, Georgia, for joining us. Is it, I mean, that must be wonderfully surreal for you. I mean, what this is like 15, 20, nearly 20 years since you did this thing. By the way, you both look pretty much the same as you did back then. I want to know what moisturizing.
You've no idea how many of those ring lights I've got round the room. You know, those light up donuts. I've got them coming at you from all angles. So,
well, they're working for
not
you.
that good.
Georgia, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Lovely, darling. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Ty.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
And if you are enjoying what you're seeing today, that text number again, 70025, start your message with the word Bill, B-I-L-L. Right, we're going to crack on with the quiz. Round 2, for everyone taking part in the quiz, please have your phone, tablets, ready, whatever you're doing the quiz on. Here are the questions. Let's go. Question 8. In The Negotiator, PC Hollis, Reg Hollis, and a shop assistant called Wendy are held hostage in a freezer. Of course they are. Which comedy legend played Wendy? Is it A, Kathy Burke, B, Maureen Lipman, or C, Arabella Ware? So who was Reg locked in a freezer with? Question 9, Sergeant Peters, the wonderful Larry Dan, we'll be chatting to him in a bit. He was unable to save a boy who was killed playing on a railway line. What is the name of this episode? Is it A, All the King's Horses, B, Chicken, or C, Do the Right Thing? So what episode did Sergeant Peters, where was he unable to save a young boy playing on a railway line? Question 10, one of the most iconic episodes, Punch Drunk, was the last regular appearance of DS Ted Roach. What is his closing line to his colleagues as he leaves the office? Is it A, sorry, is it A, up yours, Frank? B, I'm sorry, B, I'm sick of the lot of you, or C, oh, and by the way, don't bother with the party. So what was Ted Roach's closing line as he leaves the office? I'm not going to read those again because I'm going to corpse. Question 11, for the show's 10th anniversary episode, which CID character stood trial for the manslaughter of Lee Ruddick? Which CID character stood trial for the manslaughter of Lee Ruddick? Was it A, DS Alistair Gregg, B, DI Sally Johnson, or C, DCI Jack Meadows? Question 12, which officer became Sunhill's new chief inspector after Philip Cato resigned? Which officer became Sunhill's new chief inspector after Philip Cato's resignation? Is it A, Derek Conway, B, Brian Kite, or C, Paul Stritch? Quite niche, that one. And the final question in round 2. 2 uniformed officers take their sergeant's exams in 1996. Which character does June pip to the post to become the new sergeant? Is it A, PC Gary McCann, B, PC Debbie Keane, or C, PC George Garfield? Okay, that is the end of round 2. We'll do all the answers at the end. Let's bring on our next group. I'm delighted. Well, our third group here. I'm going to get the names up here. Where are we? Here we go. Here we go. So Scott Maslin, DS Phil Hunter, Andrew Lancel, there he is, D.I. Neil Manson, Bruce Byron, who played Terry Perkins, Sally Rogers, DC, and then Sergeant Joe Masters, and Patrick Robinson, DC Jacob Banks. Look at you all. It's great to have you here. Scott, you are actually able to unmute yourself here. Yeah, you're fine. You've got license. How are you doing today? You okay?
Very good, mate. Very good. What an absolute pleasure seeing all these faces. It's like a trip in the Brady Bunch, seeing all this lot. You know what I mean? The memories and yeah, it's the same connection. Hearing everybody, even the people that we weren't with and working with, hearing the same things, exact same things about, you know, the core elements of our job really, and what's important and how much fun it is, you know. And you go to a lot of places and you don't get that. I think when I left the Bill, that was the main thing about, you know, the great thing about the place was that we just all were so, it was like school, you know, we were all in there, all mates, you know, running around like kids, you know. Even when we weren't working, it was just a great buzz, a great energy, so involved. And yeah, seeing all these people, it does, it's like what Russell said, it makes you quite emotional actually, for a sap like me.
And is it nice, because I mean, obviously you've got a very prominent role in EastEnders as Jack Branning at the moment. Do you get a thrill like working alongside like Diane Parrish, who obviously was Eva Sharp? You shared no, not fair.
You work with them.
Is it nice when you get ex-Bill cast members? I think Paul Usher was Des Taverner. He's been in EastEnders recently. Is it kind of mad, like quite how incestuous the world of acting is, and how a lot of Bill cast members end up in EastEnders and vice versa?
Of course. I will say I'm only joking, Diane. You know I'm joking, Daniel. I love you. And she's fantastic. I've worked with Di all my career pretty much. And yeah, that's across the board. Actors that have been there, not just actors, the crew, as everyone mentioned, they're equally as involved. They're just behind the camera, but we're all mates. So when you're in a job as long as we are, you you go off on journeys, and it's nice when you see people, because you just grab hold of them, you know. It's like, you know, because it's like seeing an old mate, you know, you haven't seen him for ages, and it just picks up like that. There's no bad feelings with anybody, you know. You know, it's just so many people you meet, and the job to Bill was such a kind of creator of work for our industry in all ways, you know, writing and producing and acting, and all the crew members and all the great work that they would do and come up with in very short space of time, you know. But it always came from a really good place, and you could always communicate to each other, and there was no blocking, there was no you know, there was so much access to the people that created. If you had ideas, like people were saying, you know, they listened to you and they'd see who you were, and then you start seeing it in the character. So I've never been anywhere where there's been that much involvement.
Yeah,
and I'm very thankful to the experience I had there actually, because it really did give me a brilliant grounding.
I can see lots of nods in the group. Let's speak to you now, Andrew. D.I. Neil Manson. I must read out your Wikipedia entry, because I'm doing lots of homework in the run up to this. I love this, guys. Check this out. So he's a well-established theatre and television actor with a reputation for seeking controversial roles and projects. He was sporadically TV's most hated man. How do you respond to that, Andrew?
Well, I wrote it. So
you probably did. I saw your edit.
I've never heard that. It's interesting because you said controversial. Then when I went in, some weird things have happened this morning. I guess everyone's feeling the memories are coming back, not just as being in it, but as watching it as well. Because when I was going up for it, I think I had 3 meetings for it, and it was Lisa and Scott who did my screen test, and I've always been grateful for them for that, because I was trying something a bit different and they just went with it, and I've never forgotten that. But you know, when you go for an audition, you kind of turn on the most recent episode, and I turned it on, and it was Lisa and Georgia having a row in the front office. And so watching you guys do that, then it was all these kind of lines coming back, but I can't remember what the question was.
I can't either, actually. But let's keep going. Let's. I mean, Manson, you were in it for, I think it was about 7 years in total. You were in it right to the end. And actually, I'd like to bring in Patrick, Bruce, Sally into this as well. How did you feel? I mean, obviously, there's hundreds of people today, as I said, all around the world joining us. The bill is still really significant to a huge number of people. How did you all respond when you found out, you got the call that the show was coming to a close? Tell me what it was like on set that day. It must have been very hard. Start with you here, Bruce.
You know, I think everyone was a bit gobsmacked, and as Scotty said, and people before him have said, it becomes so much of your life, and you actually spend more time there than you do with your own family. So they become your family. And it's not just the fact that, yeah, you're suddenly going to be out of work, but it's like, it's not just you out of work, they're all out of work. You know, and what are they going to do? You know, and you know them, you know they've got kids, grandkids, you know they've got mortgages, you know they got this, that, and the other, and you really feel for them. And it was like the whole family was breaking up. I don't know how you guys felt, but that's how it felt to me anyway.
I remember thinking when it happened before, there was that kind of slow period where bit by bit people were leaving, and they had this terrible thing where people were leaving based on their age and all this. It was crazy. But I remember thinking, this is a bad decision, not just because I was in it or anything like that. And I don't think it would have happened any other year. I think if they'd stuck with it for another, probably even 6 or 7 months, things would have changed at ITV and they would have realized. I don't think the bill has ever been replaced. You know, Chris was talking about the actors before and stuff, and I think it was like the television rep. You know, there's nothing like it on television. There's some great stuff on TV right now, and I've always felt that it was just really bad timing.
Patrick, let's talk to you. It must have been hard for you because you'd only been in the show for a couple of years as Jacob Banks. It must have been frustrating. You were just kind of getting into a kind of rhythm with the character, and then you get this news that you're not going to be able to develop any further.
Yeah, it was another family for me because I had worked on another long-running TV series on the BBC, and that was in the 90s. And the early days of Casualty then was a great family. So when I joined the bill, that's what I found. And like what Bruce has been saying, what Andrew's been saying, I can't remember lots of the episodes. All I remember is the people I worked with and the fun I was having all the time. And I loved it. I mean, most of the time going out on location was the best bit. You had to just be in the world and do it. And that was more exciting, having been in another series, which was basically, you know, procedural drama where you stay in the studio. But in terms of the people at the bill, I loved it all the way right through the whole building, everyone. So yeah, I was losing a family. I was like, oh, what a crock. Okay, onwards and upwards. But yeah, I loved it. And it's more to do with the people for me. You know, even though the storylines, you know, Simba stuff in the interview room all the time, you kind of go, okay, characters this, have we done this before? No. So anyway, but it's the people. So that's what I miss, and it's brilliant to see all you guys. Brilliant, fantastic.
I think we're getting a real sense of the camaraderie today, and it's so nice to see that these relationships are happening off screen as well as on screen. I think, yeah, you can tell that on screen when a cast is kind of tightly knit and kind of united, and that's coming across very clearly today. Sally, let's talk to you, the wonderful DCJ Masters and then promoted to uniform. Now, 2 questions. First of all, I gather you weren't that keen about your move to uniform. Is that fair to say?
Quite reluctant, and they were like, you know, giving me the storylines, and you know, we're all actors are sucker for storyline. I was like, well, maybe, you know. And then they said to me, would you want to try the outfit on? I was like, oh, go on. And I tried the outfit on, and I walked down the corridor, and I was walking through, and Sam Collis just went, whoa, and I went, oh, I can't do it. On day 1, I was freezing on a housing estate, and all my chums in CID were going, oh, I'm just getting a coffee from Veronica's, and you know, I've got my nice cashmere sweater on, and I just stood there frozen to my marrow going, what have I done? Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the camaraderie a bit, because I know you're very good mates with Chris Simmons, Mickey Webb, to the point that you actually recently cast him in a play that you've written. Tell us a little bit about that.
Which bit?
All of it.
Well, so Chris did a play, and I went to see him in it 3 times. It was really good. It was really brilliant, the whole thing. So when we were casting this play, it just kept sitting in my head of what a phenomenal character actor he is. And so, yeah, why not?
As it's such a thrill as a fan when you see like these, you know, Andrew, you were on Casualty the other week with Kat Simmons, who was Kezia Walker. You know, you were both in CID, and it's kind of weird when you see you guys, the same with you, Scott, when you do share the kind of occasional scene with Di in EastEnders.
Oh, we're getting married, mate. We're getting married. Don't you worry about that. You'd be seeing a load more of me and Di, won't they, Di?
Great. Where's my
when
invite?
we did the Casualty, there was when we filmed that Casualty in October, there was 9 members of the Bill family in that production, you know, working upstairs, working on the floor. It was great to see everybody, and it brought back a lot of memories. Like today, you know, I remember the crew so well from the Bill. I'm sure everyone does, you know, friends for life.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly could talk to you guys for so much longer. I am aware of time, and we have a special guest waiting in the wings, Paul O'Grady, who will come to you very shortly. Thank you so much for your time. Genuinely so good to see you all, and all for a brilliant cause. Again, if you are enjoying seeing these legends on the screen, you text the word Bill to 70025. That's 70025. Text costs £5. So we're going to do part 3 of the quiz. Are you still with me on this quiz? This is clearly for the super fans. So those of you taking part, please have your thumbs at the ready. So round 3. Question 14. Which famous comedy actor guest starred as suspect Patrick Massey in the three-part storyline Humpty Dumpty? Is it A, Hugh Laurie, B, Rick Mail, or C, David Walliams? Which famous comedy actor guest starred in the three-part storyline Humpty Dumpty? Hugh Laurie, Rick Mail, or David Walliams? Question 15. Which episode was the last to feature DC Tosh lines and was dedicated to the great actor who played him, Kevin Lloyd? Is it A, A People Person, B, The Hare and the Tortoise, or C, Loving Memory? Which episode was dedicated to Kevin Lloyd? Right, in 1999, there was a Christmas special called Haunted. Which 3 officers each recall a spooky story with a twist from their past? I remember this episode, it was awful. Is it A, D.I. Deakin, D.S. Bolton, and D.C. Wroughton, B, D.S. Beach, D.C. Skase, and D.C. Holmes, or C, D.C. Proctor, D.C. Lennox, and D.S. Stanton? Are you still with me? Great. Which Christmas special featured those characters? Right, we're carrying on. Picking up pace. Name the 2-part story that featured the suspension of CID, leading to the exit of most of the department, as well as Chief Superintendent Brownlow. What was the name of that storyline? We talked about it earlier with Russell and Peter. Is it A, On the Hook, B, In the Firing Line, or C, All Fall Down? Next question. Smithy serving for which division guns down Sergeant Cryer? We will be chatting to Eric Richard imminently, which I'm so excited about. But what division was Smithy working for when he gunned down Cryer by mistake? Was it A, SO11, B, SO15, or C, SO19? Two more questions. In the wreckage of the Sun Hill Station explosion, June Ackland finds the charred warrant card for which of the 6 officers who died? Was it A, PC Ben Hayward, B, PC Di Worrell, or C, PC Sam Harker? Whose charred warrant card was found by June Ackland after the explosion? And the final question, name the spin-off show from The Bill that launched in 2003 and ran for 2 series. Name the spin-off show that launched in 2003 and ran for 2 series. Was it A, Burnside, B, Beach is Back, or C, Murder Investigation Team? Now, I'm hoping we will be able to cross over to Paul O'Grady, who is our very special guest today. Over the years, there have been some incredibly talented actors that have appeared in the show, and some quite famous names. We've had David Tennant. I didn't get a chance to talk to Georgia earlier, her husband. We had Keira Knightley, James McAvoy, Sean Bean, Roger Daltrey from The Who, Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Jack O'Connell, and a guy who went by the name of Paul Savage, back in 1988. Morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for
good, because this Zoom business always freaks me out. I never know whether I'm on, I'm off. And everybody always has like quite a posh room. Mine's an unmade bed with 4 dogs on it. So, you know.
Well, we're hearing you loud and clear. Now, you're definitely one of the most notable guest actors to appear in the show. And I think you appeared across 3 different episodes across kind of like a period of 3 years. And this was your screen acting debut. So tell us, 1988, tell us about how you got the part and how that all came to fruition.
I can't remember, to tell you the truth, how I got the part. I just remember I was working in the Vauxhall Tavern. And the writer was in, Kevin Clark, who wrote the episode. And next thing, I got a phone call, you know, would you like to come down and see us? So down I went. And I said to them, you don't really want a drag queen. It won't look right. What, you know, you want down and out, really. You know, she's got to look a bit rough. So I took Kevin to a pub called the Elephant and Castle in Vauxhall, which was the pub where if you were barred from every pub in the world, you could get a drink in there. It was, I mean, but seriously, I'd be on stage and a body had come on stage. I'd be stood on the baby sham crate and the body had come through the window. It was that kind of gaff. And I said, this is what you want. This is the kind of people. That's what Roxanne is. So she was sort of on the game, really. And she was also a copper's narc, and she was mixed up with the wrong type. She's always a gangsters and all that sort. And that's how she came. So, but I didn't expect to look quite so rough.
Well, we've got a picture here for those watching at home.
I'm done up there. That's when I was going
fabulous.
Up with gangster and I had a few bob. Oh yeah, that's glamorous. I remember the first scene, I come clacking down the street with a fag on, and I had to lean in the car window and say to Roach, something about his tie, and make some snide remark and clack off, and that was it. And I thought, well, that wasn't bad. And then they said, would you like to come back? And gradually, and then the sad thing was, 10 years later, it must have been 10 years, they rang up again and they said, we want to bring Roxanne back. I was on tour. Lily Savage had taken off by then. And so I was on tour and I couldn't do it. So George Costigan came in and played Roxanne for the last episode.
I was going to ask you about that because I think people were disappointed. You made such an iconic role, and obviously, yeah, were unavailable to do it. Can I talk about? You pretty much shared all of your scenes with Tony Scannell. Now, dear Tony died last year, very sad.
I know.
Tell us about working with the legend that was Ted Roach, because he's a very beloved character.
I remember being sat in a car once somewhere in Notting Hill Gate with Nuala. Remember Nuala? And I was perched in the back and we were doing I was always staking out nightclubs, you know, for handbag thieves or rent boy scandals. I remember Danny Dyer was a rent boy in one scene. And when I met Danny years later on the chat show, I said to him, we've worked together. I said, he said, when? I said, you were one of my rent boys. And he looked at me like I was mad. But he was great. He was just great. He was really lovely. And I said to him, you know, I said, this is my first telly job. I was fresh off the cleaner's bus at 6 o'clock in the morning and it was in Barlby Road. You know, that's how long ago it was. It was before the studios moved. And he was just great with me. Everybody was. It was such a lovely job to be on. You know, everybody was smashing. And I was a bit wary of Chris Ellison because I'd seen him in the bill, you know, and I thought, oh God. And he was a real sweetheart. We were talking about all these drag queens in Brighton. But I did have a scene with him where he had to pin me up against the wall. And he said, I'm going to go rough here. I said, I'm used to rough. And he sort of got a hold of me and I was halfway up the wall. It was roaring in my face. So no acting was required for the terrified reply. But I absolutely loved my time on the bill. I was so lucky, you know, to be brought back, especially. And when you think of the character, you know, and also Roach's and Roxanne's relationship, we are talking about, was it the 90s or was it the 80s? You know, and it was hinted they'd had a fling years ago. They'd had some sort of relationship anyway, because he always turned to Roxanne. You know, he went round to a flat at one stage, got her out of bed and had to ram the wig on, you know, all this business. And so it was, and like Roxanne, when she was in hospital, named Roach as her next of kin. So there was something, obviously, they'd been very, very close. But he was being cop, you know, with her when he was trying to get information out of her. And then, of course, she ended up with that gangster and the character got shot. Sort of saving Roach, really.
Yeah,
I'd love to have done that. I'd have loved to have been shot in the street by a gangster. Not in real life, but, you know.
I'm sure that can be arranged, Paul, at some point.
No, you're all right. No, I'm quite happy now.
Now, you're also a super fan of the show, aren't you? You love the show as well, which is another reason why we wanted to have you on today. Who's your favourite character?
Well, I have to say it was Roach, really, because I worked with Roach so much. So I was so fond of him, you know. It's such a, and I remember he casted me off to the pub. A gang of us went off to the pub down the road. They got me hammered. Like hammered. Like, I had to get the bus home. I'm sitting on the back of the bus, you know, roaring drunk at 11 o'clock at night. It was just great time. I never understood why they took the bill off, to tell you the truth, because it was such a popular show. And it was a rep, wasn't it? You know, because you had this turnover of supporting cast. And it was great. You could, like, for me, you know, I went in and played this character and just had a ball. You know, if they'd have said, would you come in for a month every morning at 5 o'clock? I'd have said, oh, yeah, definitely. Do you want me to clean the place while I'm here? You know, I was that sort of keen to do it. And it was a great experience for me. And I still get the odd royalty check for like 25 pence from Kuala Lumpur and Mahala Holla in South Africa, you know, 10p. I've got a drawer full of them. They must be worth about £1, all of them all together. But
well, I'm impressed at your memory of the show. I watched your episodes back in the run up to this, and it brilliant. The casting, but as you say, it was quite progressive casting.
Oh, very! I thought, yeah,
you know,
we really did. Yeah, you know, we really did. Having a character like Roxanne, because, you know, now when you turn the telly on, there's somebody in drag. They'll be reading the news next, you know, the way it's going. But then it was extremely rare, you know, like and especially Roxanne was a transvestite. That was the thing. She was trans. So it was all very complex. You were trying to, but it was a hoot. It was just an absolute. But I tell you what, it put me off smoking, because I had to smoke as Roxanne, and I must have smoked 80 ciggies a day. I was heaving in the end, you know, and they'd nick the fags, so for continuity, smoke it again. And I don't think I smoked for years after that. She put me off smoking completely.
Paul, really appreciate your time today. Thank you for.
I tell you what, it's lovely to see everybody there and all. How you doing? You're all right?
They're all waving at you.
As you can see, I haven't got the ginger curly wig anymore.
Well, hang around if you will, Paul, and we'll maybe chat with you later. But thank you for your time. Really appreciate you.
No, you're welcome.
Paul.
There's Lisa. Hiya, Lisa.
Thank you, darling.
And there's Nuala there in the end. Hiya, Nuala. Hiya, Gray.
Love you, Paul. Love you, mate.
The next round of the quiz.
Look at you all lit up with these lights. Have you seen mine? I've got an unmade bed behind me. People sit with these fabulous bookcases behind them and all lit beautifully. I look like I've just been dug up and belted with the shovel, and the house is a wreck. I don't care.
Right, we're going to move on. So I'm going to be the strict head teacher here, Paul, and carry on with this very riveting quiz. We are on the final round. Please.
Are you asking me this quiz?
I'd like you to play along.
I can't remember last week, let alone 30 odd years ago in the bill.
So right, let's carry on with the quiz. So round 4, final round. Thanks again to Oliver for putting this together. Please bear with me, I've got a few more questions. So which 2 former Sunhill officers joined Jack Meadows at the funeral for Ted Roach, who we've just been talking about? Is it A, Bob Cryer and Alec Peters, B, Frank Burnside and Mike Dashwood, or C, Alistair Gregg and Jim Carver? Who were the 2 former Sunhill officers who joined Jack Meadows at the funeral for Ted Roach? Here's a clue. They're both on the call today. Next one. Which actor made several appearances as CPS lawyer Jonathan Fox? Was it A, Peter Guinness, B, Larry Lamb, or C, Roger Lloyd Pack? Which actor made several appearances as CPS lawyer Jonathan Fox? Peter Guinness, Larry Lamb, or Roger Lloyd Pack? Next one, which station did Sergeant Nicky Wright transfer from to Sunhill? Gillian Tailforth, of course. Was that A, Barton Street, B, Isleworth, or C, Stafford Row? Next question. What happens to young probationer Billy Rowan on his first day at Sunhill? Now, this is a sliding scale here. This gets more and more tragic. Is it A, he loses his warrant card, B, he has an altercation with Smithy, or C, he's murdered? What happens to young probationer Billy Rowan on his first day at Sun Hill? A, he loses his warrant card, B, he has an altercation with Smithy, or C, he's murdered? Let's hope it's A or B. Question 25, the two-part story Proof of Life featured a crossover with characters from which international crime series? Is it A, CSI Miami, B, SOKO Leipzig, or C, The Shield? Which two-part story featured a crossover with characters from an international crime series? 2 more questions to go, guys. Graham, you should get this next one. Which job does PC Tony Stamp take up upon leaving Sun Hill? What job does PC Tony Stamp take up upon leaving Sun Hill? Is it A, advanced driving instructor at Hendon, B, custody sergeant at Barton Street, or C, professional chauffeur? Final question, guys. Who has the very last line in the bill and what is it? Who has the very last line in the bill and what is it? Is it A, D.I. Manson? Mine's a large one. B, Superintendent Meadows, come on people, we've got work to do. Or C, Smithy, yeah, come on, let's do it. Who has the very last line in the bill and what is it? Is it Manson, Meadows, or Smithy? That is the end of the quiz. Thank you, superfans, for taking part. I can see loads of people taking part in the chat channel. We have 2 more groups of actors to speak to, and we're going to move on to some further Bill legends. This is our 4th group, and I'm delighted now to bring in Eric Richards, who was Sergeant Bob Cryer, Larry Dam, Sergeant Alec Peters, John Isles, DC Mike Dashwood, Nuala Conwell, DC Viv Martella, and Carolyn Pickles, who played DCI Kim Reed. It is a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for raising money for such a brilliant cause. Let's start with you, Eric. Eric, for many people, you were the Bill. You had top billing for many years. You were such a significant character. I've got a question. Did you ever go home at night and forget that you weren't a police officer? Did you ever see someone illegally parked or an altercation on the street? Did you separate fact and fiction? How easy was that to do?
The nature of how I do my job is that I've always found a way of doing that. Once I take the frock off, whatever the frock is, in this case it's a police uniform, it's all over. On the other side of that, famously with my missus, we're in a pub, I get up, 2 fellas are blocking the way, I get between them to get to the toilet, and as I'm coming back, one of them says, "Oh, you're that bloke from the Bill, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." "And you're a copper, aren't you?" No, I'm the bloke from the Bill." "Yeah, I know that, but you're a copper, aren't you?" "No, I'm an actor and I play a policeman." No, I know that, but you're a real policeman." He genuinely thought that I was in there doing that show on a Tuesday night, and then I went back to the real police station. So yeah, that overlap was quite interesting. But no, once I took the hat off or the jumper off, I was back to being Eric the biker.
Did it ever get you out of a parking ticket?
No, it did get me out of a nick once. Yeah, I was on a Motor Guzzi Le Mans going past Scratchwood service stations very quickly, and I was on my way to do a police charity, so that might have helped. And the ding dong came along and pulled me over, booked me. I got to the event and I said to the people who I was offering my services to, this had happened, and someone did make a phone call.
It's the Sarge.
Caroline looks aghast.
That's a brilliant story. Eric, again, I could talk to you all morning about this, and maybe there's we can do this again, because honestly I want to give everyone a good amount of airtime. Let's talk to you though about you were in the show from the very, well, actually the first episode proper, Funny Old Business, Cops and Robbers in 1984, and you were there until 2001. So you saw a tremendous amount of change in the show, the format, the cast, and the sort of storylines. What was your favourite Bob Cryer moment in that sort of 17-year period?
Well, strangely, because it overlaps to some of the things that other members of the cast have said previously. One of my very, very early episodes is like Steve saying about that long speech to the team. Very early on, maybe even the second episode, I had at 9:30 when we went on set, I had to deliver this sergeant's speech to the company, as it were. Well, of course, there I am. I'm still new. I'm still the new boy, and they're all new boys. But these are all professional actors. And I'm having to do this speech. It's almost like an audition. So that one is riveted in my mind in the best way. And then you jump right to the end of my time with the Bill, and the last speech that was written for me as a farewell to what Cryer had done in his career and in his life. Both of those feature very heavily in my memory, of course. And then they are the bookends to just, as everyone's been saying, just a wonderful time. Just the people I'm on screen with now, much less all those others that I worked with, all those guests that came in, people like Paul, you know, Manuel Petit, the great Arsenal midfielder who came and did an episode with us. I mean, it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. Any actor will tell you, if you're given a script and it says, there's your character, this is what you're going to play, and you go, wow, I'll do that. And then you discover 17 years later, you've had that job. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the chat group going wild, by the way, so many questions. People talking about an episode called The Three Sergeants. I think which is a brilliant one with you, Trudy and Tony, but sort of a three-hander with you together. And actually, let's talk about The Three Sergeants. So for many people on the call today, the three original sergeants were you, Larry as Sergeant Alec Peters, and the late, great Roger Leach as Sergeant Tom Penny. Now, Larry, I'm so pleased that you're bringing this photo forward, because I saw this the other day on the dress rehearsal. Yeah. Look at that. Tell me about that special time working then, Larry, with these two brilliant actors.
Larry, sorry, can I ask Larry to do that again and move the photo across to your right a bit? Yeah, that's grand. Over to your right a bit. So we can. There he is.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, Eric, I mean, our dressing room, you know, the three of us together, was just the best dressing room I've had in my life, mate. Two great people to share it with. Fantastic. Oh. I can't thank you enough. Brilliant. Yeah. Great memories of that Roger the Dodger. Brilliant boy.
Larry, so you had quite a memorable stint in the show. You were there in the first episode in 1984.
Yeah, first scene with Eric. Did the first scene in it was me and Eric. Yeah.
And actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the first series, you're not in it a huge amount, and I get the impression that the more you did, they wanted you more in the show. Is that true?
Oh, it's a long story I won't go into, but I was called the day before, would I like to do a scene in it? And so they biked round a script for me. I knew nothing about it. I did the scene I worked with Eric because we'd worked in theatre before, hadn't we, Eric? Yeah. Done a very good play together. So I did this scene, thought nothing of it. When the credits came up, I was just cast as duty sergeant. No name, nothing. So I thought nothing of it. And it was only, I don't know, a couple of months later, asked to do another one. And it went on from there. Yeah.
And you stayed until 1992. Now, there's this thing in Bill folklore where you kind of disappear. Now, you get stabbed, you come back, and then you moved upstairs to a desk job as kind of desk sergeant. And the last time we see you is in the pub until you return years later with Eric and Simon Rouse of Jack Meadows.
You shouldn't say this.
Roach's funeral. So where were you in those 12 years? We're always a bit puzzled about that.
Oh, Eric told me where I was upstairs looking for a pencil and never came down. No, I was never written out and anything like that. I mean, I won't go into it. It's quite an unpleasant time for me at the end because I didn't get on with Michael Chapman at all, the producer. I was sent to him quite often by some of the cast because there was a problem. I was the one that said, "Can we da-di-da-di-da?" And I think he took it out on me. And to be honest, between you, me, and the Gatepost and everybody else, I got a rather unpleasant letter for him telling me he doesn't need me in the series anymore. Oh, wow. And that was not very nice, which I've kept to myself till now, to you lot. And so that's what happened. So I left in the end on a sour note. I didn't want to. I had such a brilliant time there. These wonderful people. And he did that to me. So I thought, oh, sod you. Sorry, folks.
No, don't worry. We've done a bad language warning. It's fine. Well, you were missed, Larry. You were really, really kind of significant character, and it was a thrill seeing you and Eric back on. Now the bill had changed radically then. It was basically a soap in 2004. But it was a really nice kind of offbeat episode where you, Eric, and Simon Rouse as Jack Meadows reconvened for Ted Roach's funeral. What was it like working with your mate 12 years later on the same show?
Oh, well, it was wonderful. Again, I didn't never work with Simon Rouse on the series. So as I left, he came in. So we in theory didn't know each other, but we all knew, dear old Tony Scannell. So yeah. It was great. It was a surprise. Got a call. They were writing a special episode for us. So thank you very much. It was great. It was great, as others people have said, seeing the crew, the same flipping crew. And this was, I don't know how many, 5, 6, 7 years later, whatever it was. It was brilliant. Wonderful. I mean, wow, the memories flood back and you have such a great time. Yeah. Oh, wonderful, wonderful people.
Let's bring in John Isles, DC Mike Dashwood. By the way, John, quite a few ladies in the chat I can see fawning, oh my God, John Isles was my first crush when I was however old. So you still got it, which is nice. Let's talk about your time. Let's talk about your time in the show. One of the original CID detectives, when it was the trio of you, Tony, and well, actually it was Roy Galloway, John Salthouse, wasn't it, in the very early days?
It was.
Talk to me about filming those really gritty kind of 1 hour episodes of The Bill when it started in 1984.
But they were wonderful. They were really, really good fun. Even then, it was. I hadn't done a lot of TV of any sort, but the bits I'd done were in sitcoms, like one scene things. That was where I was heading. And then this came along, and I looked only the other day. I've got the diary entry where audition for a cop show. That's it, in 84. And I went up for it. And then a few days later got it. That's all it was, what it became. But when we all got together, I'd just done a tiny, it sounds big, it wasn't. I'd just done a film with John Salthouse and 2 other, I can't remember who it was, but 2 other actors who appeared in The Bill in the early days as well. And it was a football thing. And the only reason I was in it was because I looked like this particular footballer.
Right.
But John and I had worked, and that was the first time I'd met him. And he was a very serious man, John. But then when we started on The Bill, we worked together a lot. And John was pernickety and intensely professional and very serious about the work. And that was absolutely fine with me. It rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way, but we actually got on very, very well. And he had a lovely sense of humor. And it all came from a good place because all he wanted to do was do a great job. And he did. And those scenes, we bonded very well. I mean, Mark and Tony and John, as a little group, we obviously worked together an awful lot, and it was wonderful. It was something I wasn't used to doing. It was a TV drama was something I had never been involved in. So it was a fabulous adventure, and I didn't realize how innovative it was. And all the stuff we've heard since from everyone here today about how cutting edge it was. I didn't know anything about that because I'd never done TV drama. I'd just gone on in the odd sitcom, Never the Twain, playing a copper, incidentally.
Oh, really?
In uniform in those days. And, said a couple of lines to Windsor Davis and Donald Sinden and then walked off. So it was a very different world. And a great one.
I think it's sort of definitely iconic, the CID in the early days. And obviously, Eric, you shared quite a few scenes with John as well as Roy Galloway. Let's bring in Nuala at this point, because let's face it, the CID was a bit of an old boys club at the start and needed some female characters in there. And Nuala, you'd obviously been wonderful as PC Viv Martella at the start of the show. How did you feel when you were approached and the producer said, hey, we want to move you to CID?
Yes, that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I started my job on The Bill with 2 lines as Viv Martella, walking with, Trudy in the East End of London. And I think what was great, like a lot of us, is our characters were actually written for us because the writers got to know us. And then I had this lovely journey with being a policewoman. And then I was the first female to go into the CID, like I was one of the boys. And I think it's great because, you know, we're talking late 80s, early 90s. And I pretty much did the stuff that they did. They didn't stop me from doing stuff, which is probably why I ended up getting shot.
We'll come to that in a minute. I'm still devastated, but yeah, carry on. Sorry.
So yeah, it was great. It was, you know, I think sort of innovative for women as well, you know, and to be asked to be the first woman to go into the CID. And like everybody keeps on saying today, you know, I'm still such strong friends with Eric, you know, and Larry and Trudy and Mark and John Isles and all of these people that we've gone through so much together. They were at my wedding. We know each other's families. We have get-togethers. So I still feel like we're very much like deep friends as well, which we've obviously, you know, gained through working together on the bill, which is fantastic. They still are a part of my life, so it's wonderful. And also I have to say to Lisa, you know, getting us all together, it's not just a section of any part of the bill, it's every single one of us that has come together. Yeah. And I think there's tremendous respect, hopefully, on both sides, that we all have made it what it is. And, you know, during a world pandemic, you know, I do a bit of teaching and I have been a key worker working with special needs children throughout it. And for Lisa to do this for homeless, it's just like, it feels even more special, I think, than what we're doing. The thing itself is bigger than all of us, if everybody feels the same.
Thanks, Nu. This might be a good opportunity to say, if you're enjoying it, guys, you can text 70025 to make a donation to Centrepoint. Thank you, guys. I'll shut up now.
No, the text number 70025 or 70025. Text the word bill, £5 per text for this brilliant cause. Nuala, I'd read somewhere that you had been quite specific with the writers, that you insisted that the character of Viv would never be romantically involved with another male cast member. Is that true?
Yes. Because I think that so many dramas have this deflection where women, you know, just have affairs or, you know, other things. And I just wanted my character to be really strong and just focus on this character. I don't mean in any sort of real sort of, I don't know, I can't explain, but I just didn't want it to deflect from being a police officer, then being in the CID. I didn't want people to get sidetracked with all of that sort of stuff. I wanted to stay on course about where women really were. And, you know, as I say, I hope that I stood for a lot of women in actually, that I was always known as one of the boys, and I went undercover with lots of, you know, drugs and raids and nightclubs and all sorts of things. And I just didn't want this other thing to deflect. And I think because they'd been with my character right from the start, it was hopefully just sort of following a strong woman through, you know, her kind of journey, if you like. And I mean, something that people might not know is that I was about to get married, and I met Regine in the corridor, and he said, "Are you still happy doing the bill?" And I said, "Come on, Peter, if I'm not happy, I'm not going to tell you." But we both knew that it was time. It absolutely was time for me to go. It was the highest viewing figure ever, 18.5 million. I know the market share is different now. And then I went on to work with Bill Kenwright doing Misery, playing Kathy Bates' part, which was enormous for me straight after the bill. And there was just two characters, and Ray Lawland didn't stay anywhere near where I did, and I did it in Leatherhead, and then I went up to Liverpool Playhouse, and it was a very different experience because I was on my own, and we extended the run up there as well. So after being with all my family on the bill, I still think it's one of the biggest challenges I ever had, and I loved playing that character, but I really needed to get back to the theatre, I think. But as far as the bill, well, I've still got all my friends on the bill and, you know, having a great time. So got it all, really.
I think the fans are so hyped to like see that you and Trudy are still mates and still hang out, and you go and watch Mark in a play or whatever it is. You know, that stuff is great. And again, the camaraderie here today has been incredible. And I'm still devastated at your leaving episode, Nuala. What I said, I watched it the other night. Brutal. Let's bring in Carolyn at this point, because we're talking about female representation and characterization. Did you know, Carolyn, that you actually are the highest ranking female police, regular police character ever in the Bill series? Did you know that?
I think that's been mentioned by lovely Oliver. Yes, I think he told me that. Yeah, very, very good. Lovely to be that. Helen Mirren, of course, at the time was also playing a CDI and a DCI. And just to carry on with these leaving episodes, it made me laugh well, it didn't make me laugh to hear yours, Larry, but when I went up to see Michael, because we were employing a nanny and I really needed to know if I could have her for another 3 months. And so I went and said, look, I don't know how it's going, but can you give me any clues to whether I should keep my nanny on? And he said, oh, look, you're doing very well. You're adding greatly to the atmosphere. Don't you worry about a thing. 3 months, within 3 months, I got a letter saying, great, you've added so much to the bill. We're so pleased that we're going to promote you and move you to Nottingham, which is where I went.
Man management is terrible, terrible.
And I hid that letter from my husband for quite a while because we were quite reliant on every penny at that stage because we mortgaged up to the hilt. But yeah, it was a great opportunity, obviously. I'm also jealous of Nuala because Nuala managed to be one of the boys. I never did. No, it was very difficult for me, I think, with two naughty boys. And looking back, having had a child, I really didn't find it easy. So I'm one of the first people to admit I had quite a hard time. And having got to show confidence and leadership and all those qualities when I felt like a little mouse was hard. I got over that and started to run with it after a while. But my great mate, dear Kevin, who I'd been on stage with, was on my side a lot. And sorry, there are no sides here. No sides. But no, I had a hard time. But I loved working with all the people I see here. I remember John, Larry, Nuala, and Eric very, very well. And I haven't seen any of you since, apart from Larry. I saw Larry.
We met once. A bill thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
We did a bill thing. That's right. Yeah.
We have a very classy entrance, I will say, Carolyn, where you turn up at the station, you're heading in, and you see a criminal or something on the street, you think something's up here. So you arrest him. So you arrive at the station with a prisoner in one hand and I think a BLT sandwich in the other.
That's
and I
right.
just say, that's a classy way to kind of, start the show.
You nicked, mate, I think I said. And
yeah.
I jumped out of this BMW. It was I think I drove it and I just pulled up and ran towards this guy. Was it Brixton? I don't know where we were. It was it was a very fast moving show. The steady cam was something I'd never worked with before. And it was like theatre, and the speed was very demanding. You had to learn quickly. You had to really move with it and accept anything that happened, really. And there was a lovely guy behind the camera. Oh, I forgot his name, Small. At one point, he had to run backwards over this wreck while I was apprehending someone with a baseball bat. And he fell and he broke a lens, which must have cost...
Wow. Was it Rowley?
Rowley, well done, Rowley.
Yeah.
Lovely Rowley. And he just before that, I said to him, what happens if you fall? I won't fall. I won't fall.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm really sorry again to move on. We've got one more group, and I must apologise to everyone watching. We're going to be slightly late for the meet and greet, so do bear that in mind. I do apologise, but we want to give everyone a brilliant amount of time today, and thank you. So thank you, Eric. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, John, Nuala, and Carolyn.
Well,
absolute joy to see you all. If you've loved seeing these guys today, please text Bill to 70025.
Do it.
Please, that'd be amazing.
Do it.
We're raising thousands of pounds today, hopefully. For
It's only a fiver. Come on,
Could I just make a personal note on the fundraising to apply it? When I was a baby, I was 5. I was 6 years old, and the war had come to an end, and my mother was a migrant, and we were squatting at that stage of our lives. down in Weymouth in a tiny little cottage. My father came back from North Africa and Italy as a soldier, obviously, was demobbed. And within a year, we were housed in what was then called prefabs, which is what this thing is trying to do, effectively build prefabs. And I can still remember, even as a 5-year-old, having a home. I can remember that energy, having a home. So I'm looking right into the lens now. All of you that are supporting this event financially, please give all you can and think about a time in our culture when we did house everybody. We wanted to house everyone. We should be doing it now. Thank you for the indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I mean, we couldn't put it better ourselves. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to all of you for your time. We have one final group of actors who were there, I think, kind of like in the mid-noughties of the show. So I'd now like to welcome Suzanne Maddock, aka PC Cass Rickman. We have Connie Hyde, PC Kathy Bradford, Diane Parrish, DC Eva Sharp, Cyril Henry is Superintendent Adam Macaro, Beth Cordingley, PC Kerry Young, and finally, hoping he's here, is Dan with us, Dan McPherson, who is PC Cameron Tate, who I think might be coming from Oz.
Hi, can you?
There he is, brilliant. Okay, good to see you, Dan, thank you. So look, it's brilliant to have all of you guys here. Again, thank you for your time. Let's jump straight in with you, Suzanne. 3 years in the show, but my God, what a memorable 3 years as Cass Rickman. You saw quite a lot of upheaval in the cast. Tell me, in the 3 years, what are the storylines that stick out to you most of all as Cass?
As Cass, well, I loved Borderline, which is the first episode that I came in on, and I got to work with Lisa Gagan and the lovely Colin Tarrant. Favourite ones as well, Sunhill Boulevard, the legendary one where I was in that red swimsuit nightmare, where I took a day off at the Lido. Really enjoyed doing that, although it was rather cold, I have to say. And I didn't enjoy going shopping for that red swimsuit. It took us about, I don't know, 6 weeks to try and find a red swimsuit because she's a Liverpool. What else? Let's see. Oh, I love the 3-parters with Leroy. I think that was Trust. That 3-part was brilliant because I keep in touch with a lot of the cast, and I keep in touch with now I've forgotten his name. Richard Mylan.
Richard,
Leroy, and we just got on so well. All we did was laugh. It was like sticking 2 best mates, cheeky best friends together. We just had loads of fun. So yeah, loads of really good memories of the bill. The main thing for me was, you know, the briefing room scenes where you had to stand up in front of everybody. They were always, I'd see myself in one of them and think, oh no, because everyone would be throwing things at you between the takes and ripping your tie off just before the action. And you'd be, you know, set on seats and then someone would lower your seat down, just, you know, getting told off by the director. But no, the whole thing with the bill was I felt very lucky to be there. I never trained as an actor. I didn't go to drama school. So for me, it was just, you know, being given this prize. And
well, I remember you in Hetty Wainthropp, and it was quite surreal when you were I think you were a mechanic in that. And I remember watching that with my mum and dad when I was a kid, and then to going from that to the bill, it was quite a sort of surreal seeing you in such a different kind of setting, the kind of gritty streets of Sun Hill. Let's talk about your exit, because I think it's one of the most emotional ones. I talk about Nuala, we'll talk about Beth's as well. That is probably one of the defining moments for Cass. How was that? I mean, you were filming, I remember you reciting the Lord's Prayer at the end. You're being hauled up by these chains. Your body then emerges on the banks of the Thames. I mean, this must have been so traumatic and draining to film all of this. What are your memories that stick out from that, Suzanne?
Well, getting the bald cap put on was not fun in the morning because they actually cut all my hair off, didn't she? The serial killer. And I always remember my dad ringing me up going, have they cut all your hair off? Oh, it's a bald cap. I've still got all hair. And my poor grandmother, we had to not let her see it because she thought telly was real. So we had to, like, you know, hide Nana away from the telly that night because she would have had a heart attack. But yeah, it was really great to do. It was great to get such a great story to leave on. Hearing Carolyn, you know, and Nuala's exits and other people just, you know, going upstairs to retrieve a pencil. So I was very lucky to get that out. I was really disappointed because, you know, not only was I losing my job, you know, the money, it was being with my mates every day and all my best. And so that was the main like bad one about leaving the bill. But yeah, the filming of it itself, really difficult, really quite emotional on loads of different levels. But you know, in the bigger picture, I always felt very honoured to be there. I knew it wouldn't be forever. And every day walking in that studio was like, you know, walking into a fun fair. It was just brilliant, the whole thing.
I think we were gutted as fans because it felt like the character of Cass had so much more to give, but I think they had to kill off a really well-loved character for that storyline to work. I mean, poor Lisa nearly met her maker as well as Nixon. She was caught up in that storyline. But yeah, so that's brilliant. Thank you, Suzanne. Let's move on to Connie. Lovely to see you, Connie. PC Kathy Bradford. I mean, wow. Again, I think this is probably worthy of a separate Zoom in itself. Your reign of terror on the show. I did a bit of Wikipedia information, research in the run up to this. Can I just go through your list of crimes because they are sizable? And I love that someone has gone to the bother of doing this on the internet. So you spiked someone's drink, you pushed someone down the stairs to their death, you falsified a statement, you committed perjury in court, you set fire to a colleague's house, you beat a man to death and left his body in a chip shop freezer. I should add, that was your fiance. You got another officer fired, Robbie Cryer. You beat up said officer, you abducted 2 children, you assaulted 2 fellow officers, you stabbed a colleague and held him in the basement of Sun Hill. And probably the most heinous crime is you cost Polly Page her job. That was the thing that we were. So how do you respond to that list of crimes, Connie?
Well, yeah, all in a day's work, really. But the one with Polly was because me and Lisa are best friends, and it was, oh, you read things like that, you go, oh no. And also Moya alike, but I really loved getting her up against the wall. You know, we used to laugh our heads off because she was only little. I could pick her up and slam her against the wall, you know. But me and Lisa, oh, that was, and she's such a brilliant actress, Lisa, as well. She's just so effortless and just so real, which makes it even worse because you're looking at this incredible actress and just going, oh, no, I didn't like that at all. Didn't like it.
And it must be tough when you're going up against beloved characters. I think of like Steve Hartley, and he was very mean to Eric Richard, you know, Bob Cryer. And you're new to a show, and it's a very well-established cast, and you're going up against these beloved characters. That must be tough because you must get some kind of, you know, fallout from the fans and stuff. And did you have old ladies in supermarkets kind of hitting you with their shopping? Did that ever happen?
I went to get some shoes once and someone screamed literally and didn't come back. But I tell you what, I'm so glad because I've just done Corrie as well. And the difference, thank God social media wasn't around then. We were so, in a way, so lucky because I did a few things naughty on Corrie as well, and the abuse you get. I mean, so I think it would have been a whole different thing with the social media thing. And you've got to be, I mean, I don't care now, I'm 50, you know, I don't care what they write, but I think I perhaps would have done then, you know, and I think it's, don't know, it's really great because we're selling this show on that, you know, there are a lot of really positive sides to it, making charity work and things like that, but there are a lot of negatives to it as well. And I think a lot of people can get to you, you know, so I think I'm glad social media wasn't around when Kathy Bradford was around.
Yeah, I only imagine what you know, that hashtag Kathy Bradford, what that would have turned up. But I mean, you were such a memorable character and obviously added a tremendous amount to the show. Let's bring in Diane Di here. Pleasure to meet you. Now you had a very brief but memorable stint on the show. You were Eva Sharp just for 2 years. It's weird when I look back. I feel like you were in the show for longer because of the impact your character had. I remember reading at the time that you were, they specifically wrote the character of Eva with you in mind to sort of bring, if you accepted the role, to kind of bring this kind of vivid characterization. That must have been tremendously flattering as an actor to be told that they want this character specifically for you.
Yeah, absolutely it was. I mean, it's obviously a time on the show and a show that we all held very dearly in our hearts, not just as an audience, but as actors. I think Andrew Andrew mentioned, it's treated as rep amongst the acting community. Funnily enough, every bill I went up for, I never got a bill. I'd always go out for a bill, get really nervous about it, and audition for a part in the bill. I went for everything, prostitutes, this, that's, you know, little scroats, all sorts, and I never got them. And then I get a part created, so I felt like that was a bit of vindication to get a character like Eva Sharp. But yeah, it was just a show that you had with your tea, you know, it was there, that the characters were part of the fabric of our lives and our homes, and you know, and it was just surreal to walk into that environment and work with these people. It was actually quite nerve-wracking as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. You actually have the distinction, you're one of the few characters that went off into one of the Bill spin-offs, Murder Investigation Team, and you're up against Lindsay Colson. Obviously, you would work later on in EastEnders. Again, it's that kind of incestuous kind of group with actors, which is amazing. What I was always curious with that, how did that differ in terms of filming the Bill? And was there ever the scope that Eva would return to the proper show, or were you done then?
I don't think, from a production point of view, I don't think it was a sort of hop on, hop off thing for Eva or for me. It was something that was a sort of development for myself personally. And the difference, I suppose, was I think the Bill is such a vocational drama. You actually do sometimes feel like you go into work as a copper. You're turning up. You've got everybody's just part of this team that is actually, you know, a bunch of coppers working together. Our CID department was where it was, that, you know, the uniformed officers where they were, you know, we sort of had lunch together, it was free and all that kind of thing. But doing MIT felt much more like making a drama series. You know, it was much longer filming, you know, 3 scenes a day, whereas the Bill, much like the show I'm in now, got filmed at a faster pace. So yeah, it was very different, but there was more of a family affair it's more of a family. I think people have covered that. The family affair was extraordinary. And like you say, I was only in it for a very short period of time, but I felt completely immersed in the camaraderie and the relationships with people. That it's just very earthy, great community of actors. I loved it, still do.
Well, you certainly made your mark in those 2 years on the show. And I think Eva is a character very beloved with the fans. So, you know, that's brilliant. Let's bring in Cyril here at this point. Now, no offense to Peter and Stephen, who are also on the call, but I think it's fair to say you're the only Sunhill leader with a backbone and a moral compass. How did it feel when you came in as Superintendent Acaro in 2002?
Well, firstly, may I say congratulations to Lisa for getting this together. Coming in as Acaro was strange because I'd been in the Bill twice before. I'd been a barrister trying to prosecute a rapist, and I lost the case. And then I was a Rwandan refugee with Hugh Quashie as the as a war criminal, and then on that war criminal thing, Renee Zager, who's not here, who's fabulous, and you know, it was such a warm and welcoming atmosphere. And then years later, after Diane had been asked to come and do the Bill, I was told by the producer at the time that he then decided immediately that he wanted a Black superintendent to come in, and so it was shortly after that call that I think me and 2 others were considered for the part, and it was fantastic to come in. I mean, I loved working there. It was just a brilliant atmosphere, and I don't think you quite get that in TV elsewhere. Although, you know, actually, I have to say I've done Death in Paradise, where a lot of the crew are now, because one of the
Tim Key, isn't it? Was Tim in your era of the Bill? Yeah, yeah.
And various other things, you know, across the way. But the thing that attracted me to the Bill in the first place was the guests and the regulars. The guests, I mean, you had people like, I got to work with Ron Moody, you know, and that is just, you know, if as an actor, if you get to work with Fagin, you know, that is just, I mean, how do you top that? You know, that's just Felix Dexter. You know, you've already had some of the guests. Just fantastic people, you know. I remember having a conversation with Pauline Quirk before she came in and worked on there, where she said she was so jealous that she'd never been asked to work on the bill. And then, of course, she came in and was working on the bill. It's just such a wonderful place to work. Yeah, it was brilliant, you know.
And love your interaction, obviously, with Roberta Taylor, Gina
Robbie,
Gold. And I gather you're good mates off screen as well.
Yeah, very good mates. I love Robbie. We share a coffee addiction. You know, I mean, we get through a couple of cafeterias before 7 o'clock in the morning. And
can I just jump in and say that Robbie, Roberta Taylor, as you would expect, does not do Zoom, period. But she's going to make a donation to Centrepoint from her and Peter Guinness. So just to put that out there.
Yeah, Robbie's just fantastic, you know. But everybody on this, I have to say, you know, it was just such a brilliant time, and I do miss that building. And you know, I'd worked before on Family Affairs, which was also in the same complex, and it wasn't the same as working, you know, as Beth will probably testify. You know, it wasn't the same as working on the bill. The bill was just a family, and people have talked about the crews, and you know, you couldn't get better. You really couldn't get better. And these are people who really knew their job inside out, you know. I mean, the level of filming, if you're doing that sort of filming and you've got to get so much in, you know, you need people who really know how to step up to the mark. And these guys, you know, I mean, I've been in this game for I don't know how many years. I'm not going to say.
Long enough.
But a long time. And you know, you see these guys still, and they are the backbone of this profession. It was training. You know, from makeup. These are the people who go on and make, you know, the big Hollywood films. Makeup, you know, crew, you know, cameramen. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I loved it.
Well, let's bring in Beth here. I know, again, you two are mates. I love this. Cyril and Beth, you're good friends off screen as well. Beth, you joined the show in quite a tumultuous period. There'd been a big cast clear out, and you were part of the kind of new breed of characters coming in. And I mean, poor Kerry Young. You know, she was so young, so idealistic. And then so much rubbish happened to her. Did you ever get a script and think, a bit like Trudy earlier we were talking about, and just think, enough is enough, guys, please?
Well, I remember because in Family Affairs, I played this really naughty character. And the conversation I had with Paul, the executive producer, when I was being brought in as Kerry, I said, I'm just fed up with being horrible. I just want to be nice. And the problem with that is that then you can get put in a bit of a
target.
So, yeah, I mean, I had amazing storylines, but there was quite a long time when everyone in the whole world except me knew that my husband was gay, and it was a bit like, how long is it going to take her to realise? But yeah, I mean, I was so lucky. I remember so many. We had like, and like everyone said, they didn't shy away from things like a miscarriage storyline. I had a PTSD thing after I think the storyline with Dan
blew up, didn't it, with you there? Yeah,
I had the bomb strapped to him. And then all the undercover stuff, and yeah, so I felt really lucky that I had so much to do. And I just listening to everyone talking, I was thinking about how I've never worked on a show where you feel that it's so owned by the audience as well. So we used to do a lot of filming on estates, and I remember filming once, and a little boy came up to me, asking me, being about 8 years old, and he said, "You are always in the passenger seat." And I was like, I'm trying to pass my driving test, but I failed it 5 times. Like, but the fact that he, you know, like people were that connected with the show and kind of had watched it that much detail to realize, why is that character never driving? Like I just, and I remember actually when I was leaving the show, you know, you go around doing those things like this morning, and just in terms of talking about fans of the show, I remember sitting waiting to go on and for this morning, and I was talking to my grandpa, and I looked up and Roger Moore was standing in the door, and I remember going like, Gramps, I gotta go because James Bond is standing in the doorway. And Roger Moore said to me, Kerry Young, I am your biggest fan. And I was
no way.
And
wow.
So, and he said, me and my wife watch every night in Switzerland, like, you know, so just the scope that it had, the people you wouldn't expect to be watching. And it's one of those shows that I think, yeah, so many people, it was such a well-loved show. And I feel so honoured to have been part of that fabric.
Plaudits from 007 himself. That's pretty major, Beth. That is incredible. I bet you had a spring in your step that day, right? Let's bring in Dan here. Last but not least, Dan, thank you for joining us. Are you from Sydney? Am I getting that right? Are you in Sydney at the moment?
I'm in the Canary Islands randomly.
Oh,
I've just
right.
wrapped a job. So I'm on the same time zone, but I've just done a week of night shoots. So I don't quite know where I am, but it sounds far more exciting than it is. Trust me.
Well, let's talk about you and joining the show. I think you joined the show in 2003. For a lot of us, you were Joel in Neighbours. That was like, you know, we'd grown up kind of seeing you there. And you're playing quite a different character. I love that you've got your head shaved at the start because they're trying to kind of, you know, did you join the bill trying to make a sort of conscious break from Joel and being synonymous with that role?
Look, let's cut to the chase. I was 22 years old. I'd never been to drama school either. I'd been picked off the side of a road to go and to play Joel in Neighbours, and then I was touring. I'd done pantomime off the back of Neighbours, and then I was touring Godspell around the UK, and then Tony Wood, who used to work at ITV, his brother was my panto producer. Said, "Why don't you come and try an audition for the bill?" And we're casting all these new characters. So I came and did that, and I put the uniform on, and I looked so pretty that no one would ever that I was going to be a London copper at Sunhill. So the only thing I could think of doing was going and shaving my head, and at least try and look a little bit tougher. But I don't think it worked.
No, I think. Well, I like that the hair kind of grew back, didn't it, over time? I mean, you had lots of memorable storylines, a lot involving Beth's character with Kerry. You guys kind of left around the same time. Did you kind of, was that a conscious decision? I hope you don't mind, you guys were actually together, weren't you, at the time? So was that a kind of like, do I not bring that up?
No, Daniel left, and then and no, it wasn't a joint decision at all. But but we both made the decision separately to leave. But it did, yeah.
I think I had to watch episodes where like the Smithy was getting in on my ground, and that was.
We had to. They did love. Paul Marcus loved all that kind of crossover between real life stuff. So he'd put in like awkward scenes sometimes where I'd have to watch someone. I remember the director saying to me, "So the door's going to open, and you have to act watching someone kiss your boyfriend." And he was loving it. And you know, when you're like, oh God. And then he got a big emotional scene with Daniel saying goodbye because he was going off to Australia, and it was like, oh, this is good fun.
That's mad. Dan, obviously the bill is huge in Australia, isn't it? Like, do you get recognition there, like for your time in the show?
Yeah, it was, yes, and still do. And it had a wonderful following. It was Saturday nights, 8:30 in Australia. And one of the benefits of when I did leave, they were still about a year and a half behind. So I went home and didn't work for a while, but got to watch everything sort of string out for a year and a half on TV over there. So I got a nice little bonus over there. But I'll just echo everybody's words. It's wonderful to see everybody today, and such a great cause. I was 22 when I started the show. I'd only ever worked on Neighbours, and the welcome I got when I walked in that building from that cast and that crew, and particularly, I think, Mark and Trudy and Graham, and I think you guys had just been shooting in Australia a couple of years earlier, and everyone was still buzzing about Sydney and knew how big it was down there. But the welcome I received as a youngster stepping down into Merton for the first time was one I'll never forget, and yeah, it was an incredible time in my life. And when a lot of people from the UK were going to Australia to do their gap year, I got to come to the UK and do it in work on the bill. And I had the couch that all the Aussies were coming to crash on for 2 or 3 years down in Wimbledon. And it's just awesome memories. And a lot of massive learning experience for me, you know. And remember there were 5 units working at once at one point in that building, and you could hear everybody moving around upstairs and downstairs, and there were pre-shoots and post-shoots, and you'd walk into that scheduling room that looked like a vortex of paper and cards, and you know, something out of Doctor Who. And it was, I learned so much that I was able to then just apply to my career since. And, you know, I'm 40 something now, and to think it's 20 years ago. What a trip, man. What a trip.
And you know what, actually, fair play to all of you, because I can see a lot of the comments going on how well you've all aged. They're saying, what was there something in the water at Merton where you were filming? Because you all look remarkable, literally all of you. Now, that is it. I'm really sorry. We're going to have to kind of wrap this up. We're already about 25 minutes over. I do apologize, certainly for the people that have got meet and greet tickets. I will just do one final plug for the text number, which is 70025. Start your message with the word Bill. It's £5 going towards this brilliant cause. We've raised thousands of pounds today. We have, and the hundreds of you listening around and watching around the world, it's just been incredible. We're still totting up the totals. We will keep running with the text line. I'm going to get Lisa to come in here as well and just maybe kind of wrap things up as well, because she is the person who's organised this. We can talk about the Just Giving as well, perhaps, Lisa.
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed. I thought it would be a lovely experience, but I had absolutely no idea how. I mean, I'm quite emotional about it, because I mean, hearing everyone's stories, you can relate to everybody, even if you didn't work with them, you know. And I just, well, first of all, I've got to do some thank yous, haven't I, really, Matt? So my first thank you has got to be to all of the actors who have given up a lot longer than they were supposed to this Saturday morning to come and, you know, give their time to support homeless young kids. This will really make a difference. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And I mean, you're all so interesting, and your stories. I mean, we could just do we've got to do it again, Matt, I think.
I think we need to. Yeah, please.
A lot of the fans are saying we need to do they're calling it a CopperCon, which is a bit like a Comic-Con, where we get everybody together in person. So that might be something. So thank you, guys. I love you all, and I appreciate you so much for doing this. I've got to thank the Centrepoint team, because there's a lot of technical stuff that's gone into this and liaison over the last 2 weeks. Because can you believe this has been put together in 2 weeks? So hats off to Centrepoint for that. Obviously, Borkowski PR, who have helped with publicising the event, and Matt Christian, Oliver Crocker for the quiz, which we're going to hear about in a minute.
Yes.
And obviously, a massive thank you. You've been an absolute superstar. Matt Fincham, you are something else. Thank you.
Well, honestly, if you'd have told my 16-year-old self that I'd be hosting a Bill reunion with this many people, I probably would have imploded. But for such a brilliant cause.
Darling, can we do the Just Giving?
Yes.
I don't have the details in front of me.
I think what we'll do for ease is, if you follow the Centrepoint Twitter account later, we'll put a link there. I think that's probably the easiest thing. The great thing with Just Giving is you can give any amount that you want. It's not just limited to £5. So if you want to give a bit more or a bit less, that's brilliant. So we'll tweet that from the Centrepoint account. I do actually, Lisa, really remiss of me. We did that really extravagant quiz, and I haven't even told you who won it. So there are some brilliant super fans. There were 4 people who came in joint first place. So can we say congratulations to Emma Williams, Christopher Cheek, Benjamin Cowell, and Paul Curry. It's brilliant. That was such a difficult quiz. Thank you to Oliver for putting it together, and do listen to his podcast, because it is a great listen. And I've
got the Just Giving information if we
wanted to go for it, Lisa.
So it's oh gosh, it's one of those HTTPS, you know, one of those things / it's www.justgiving.com/campaign/the-bill. That's www.justgiving.com/campaign/the-bill. If you've enjoyed yourselves today, please help us build these 300 homes and create these 300 jobs for 16 to 25-year-olds.
And we have the link in the chat here as well. So we'll just keep that there for 30 seconds so you can click on it. Thank you to the cast and everyone involved. Thank you for giving up your time. Thank you for Lisa. Let's give her some props as well, because, you know, it's no mean feat bringing together 30 legends. So thank you, Lisa. And everyone who is on the meet and greet, we're going to jump straight into that now. So hold tight for that. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Well done, Matt.
See ya.